of what we need to do in real estate is learn how to respond to people. So people say things, if you don't know what to say, you're kind of dead in the water. And what you say will eventually lead to what is written writing. And you know, for everybody comes to the business a little differently, right? And you might think that somebody that's quick on the draw, saying things all the time, was, you know, he's always been that way. He's just a quick thinker. No, it's just practice. The biggest downfall most people have is they don't practice. So if you hear some stuff or you get a chance, you want to write some of this stuff down. So the question in negotiations before we get going, will you get what you need, or will you get what you negotiate? Most people never get what they need. And the reason they don't get what they need is because they don't know how to negotiate. You only actually get what you negotiate. See, I was doing this deal with for sale by owner just the last couple of days, and I don't have it signed, but I've got everybody agreed to what's on my contract, but somebody else beat me with a contract ahead of mine. And there was a couple things I had to negotiate. One of them was the commission, because the for sale by owner guy said, no, he says, that I need this much money. He says, whatever you put for commission is your problem. It turns out that there's 3 offers. I'm in second place, and hopefully I'll get to first place today. Who knows? But I know one of the other guys actually said, fine. He charged him $200,000 because, you know, it's a $4 million deal. And one of the other guys said, fine, I'll just tack on $200,000, and that'll be my commission. Now that he hasn't got the deal signed yet. For me, I just said, nah, you know, I was trying to figure it out. I'll just charge 3%. So only $120,000. And the first objection I got was, right, that's a lot of money, because the buyer's gonna have to pay it. So the purchase price is $4 million, and the buyer now has to pay $4,120,000. And his first comment to me was, right, that's a lot of money. No, you know, I don't like the increase in price, because we never see, the thing about dealing with for sale by owners is you don't ask all the questions, and I didn't. After all these years, I still didn't ask all the questions, because I dealt with this guy before. See, one of the biggest problems in negotiations is to let your guard down. I let my guard down because I know the guy. I've know him, and I never met him, but I know him on the phone. Talked to him many, many times, and we talked several times. What's the price? $4 million. We didn't discuss commissions because last year when I tried to do this deal, the deal was 3.5 last year, and he was going to pay me 3%, but he choked really hard, and it was coming out of his 3.5. This year the deal changes, it's $4 million, and the commission is whatever I want to charge on top of that. But you get what you negotiate. So I'm like, I'm getting 100. If I do the deal, I get 120. I'm good. So the question you have to ask yourself: will the process, see, in your business, in your life, will the process of what you're doing care about what you need? You see, respond, care. Does anybody care about you? See, the sooner you get this point through your head, nobody gives, what's the word? A rip. Nobody gives a rip about you. Like, they would just be as happy if I did the whole deal and I didn't earn anything. What difference does it make to them? It doesn't make any difference. Nobody's sitting up late at night wondering, hoping the rate, thinking, I hope Ray makes enough money this year. There's nobody thinking that. So when you realize that, the process does not respond to your needs. You need to get your need off the table and figure out, what do I deserve, and how do I put myself in a position of deserving. That's actually a big thing. That's a whole concept. I give you a small example, because most people will not get this. I'm going to move on from this. We had a business planning session here in January. I just give you an example. It's the best way. One of the gals that came to the business planning session, in the session, you probably all heard this. I said, get a notebook, write 10 things down every day. Remember that? So one of the gals in the office, she emailed me this a couple of weeks ago. She says, Ray, she says, I thought I could do that. Every day she wrote 10 things down. All through January, started into February. Before the end of February, she had done 3 transactions in January. She did 3 transactions in February. So she's on track to do, if she keeps that pace up, she's going to do 36 transactions, which will make her over $250,000, maybe $300,000 in commissions. just because she's diligent to write the 10 things down that she wants every day, which is easy to do. What's it?
Easy not to do.
Easy not to do. Anything's easy to do, it's always easy not to do. So then actually, you probably, when I tell you this, you probably realize who this is, but on a floor call in February, she got a listing for 72 condos. Would anybody in the room take that listing? You'd all take that one? You'd all take that one? Well, what she did was she put herself in a position of deserving. Life responds to deserve. You put in the work, you put in the time, you do the things you're supposed to do, in your head that you're supposed to do, and life responds to that. So that's kind of what we're talking about there. Okay. Most people are not ready to negotiate what's coming down the pike because they haven't done any preparation. So preparing in general is one thing, but preparing for every client is another thing. So what, you're gonna go meet with somebody for a listing presentation. I'll tell you what, the CMA stuff that you do and all the real estate stuff you do is minor compared to preparing what you know on that person. That's actually the small part. What do you know about the situation? What do you know about the person? What do you know about the pain they might be in? As opposed to, like I went to a real good old buddy of mine. His mom died. Dad's in a care home. He phones me up. He lives outside the country, and came into town. He phones me up. He wants me to come take a look at the property and see what it's worth and all this kind of stuff, right? I do no preparation. I do nothing. I go to the property. I said, well, I'll come over and take a look. So I go over and take a look, and he says, well, Ray, the assessment says that. What do you think? I said, I don't know. Because if he was looking for somebody to tell him what it's worth, I mean, there's probably 1,000 guys that can do that, right? And our board has got to be at least 1,000 that can tell him what it's worth. So, I don't know. I said, I'll find that out. I said, tell me what's going on. Greg, tell me what's going on. Like, it's like, are you the executor? Yeah. So I gave him to tell me everything. And finally, it doesn't matter anymore what it's worth. I mean, it is what it is, right? Is he going to sign the listing tomorrow? No. He's got. Now I find out, that usually when somebody dies, it's not a quick process. Usually. So instead of getting sidetracked, me doing all this preparation, I just went in there and talked to him, and found out all the stuff, and found out what the pain is. Asked all kinds of questions that most people wouldn't ask. I asked him. I said, "Would you consider carrying a mortgage? Because I know there's a buyer for this place if there's nothing down." Isn't there always a buyer if there's nothing down? So I asked him if he would carry more. And I asked him all these questions, and all I was doing was the preparation part, finding out everything that's turning this guy's crank. And what do I really want out of this thing? Every time, what do I want? And in the case with my friend Greg, the last thing I want is the commission. I don't actually care if I get a commission. It's not my biggest concern there. My biggest concern, I've known this guy I've known the family for over 30 years. So my number one concern is to make sure that, and this is the first time I've ever done business with him. So my number one concern is to make sure that at the end of the deal, we're still really good friends. In this particular situation. Especially when I got another guy that's gonna give me 120 grand over here, so you just gotta always keep these things in perspective. So figure out what people, so researching the other side is a big deal. So you're gonna meet with people, find out as much as you can about it. So we have a little formula. It's a simple little formula. It's called FORM. You ever heard of FORM? What is it?
Family, occupation, recreation, message.
There you go. If you don't know that, you need to write that down, and that's your questions. Ask them about their family, what's going on. Young Andreas here, he speaks German. And if you don't use that pretty soon, the moment you start using that language in your business, you'll make a fortune. I'm telling you, especially in this area. You meet some of these older German men and people, and you start speaking to them in German. Hey, Jim? He'll win their hearts over in a heartbeat, wouldn't he?
Works every time.
Works every time. It's unbelievable. So you're going to find that out by asking questions. You see I mean, I could give you lots of examples, but this one is always one of my best ones because was corresponding with this lady on email. She was asking me real estate questions. I kept sending her stuff. Don't know her from a hole in the ground. So finally one day she says, Ray, she says, we want to move ahead. She says, could you come list our home? Could you come over and tell us what our home was worth? So I said, sure. I don't, but their last name was Cron. So I had a clue, right? So when I pull up to the home and knock on the door, husband comes to the door and he opens his mouth and he says 3 words, and I know he's from Paraguay. Because you can tell that Paraguayan accent just like that, right? So I know he's Paraguayan. So I start speaking to him in Spanish. I mean, the poor guy, he just spoke, because he took one look at me, and he took a look at me, and he didn't know, was not expecting this, right? So he says, you speak Spanish? And I said, well, yes, I'm from South America, so are you, right? He goes, yeah. I said, you're from Paraguay or Uruguay? He said, Paraguay. I said, well, I was born, I tell him where I was born. I grew up in South America. I don't speak Spanish fluently by a long shot, but I speak enough, right? I literally within 2 minutes of me walking through the door, in my mind, I've got the listing. We walk through the house. I'm all on the F, the family. All I'm asking them is what the kids do, what do they, what the family does, did you do the renos? I'm just doing all this stuff, right? What do you do for work? And I got to the work part. What do you do for work? He tells me all this stuff. And when we sit down at the table to do the real estate stuff, I just ask him one question. No, this is a negotiating question. It's very tough to ask. If you time it right, it's powerful. Because it's one of these things where if they say no, I'm dead in the water. So it's kind of a gutsy question. But by this time the guy's warmed up and he's happy and everything, and I say, hey, Richard, can I ask you a question? He goes, sure. I said, are you thinking you and I can do business together? You need to get that one in your repertoire. Are you kind of feeling like, Tim, are you thinking like we could do business together? Sure. See, now it's gutsy because what if Tim hasn't, if it's too early for him and he goes, he's in mind, he's thinking, I'm going to say yes to be polite, but I don't want to do this with this guy, you know what I'm saying? He won't be able to say it right? And I don't know I've asked it too soon. Because some guys might actually say, I've never had it happen yet, but because I'm always trying to read the situation and ask it at the right time. But it could happen to me, because I'm a little pushy. It could happen to me that I might ask that question one day and somebody goes, Ray, we'll see. I'll let you know in a bit. I don't know. Tell me more. That could happen. But if you get them to say yes to that question, you pretty well won the negotiation. And see, one of the things about learning how to negotiate and preparing is realizing that it isn't any one thing. It's a number of things. It's no one thing. But the preparation part is the big deal. And if you understand what the need of the people are. So in any negotiation, if you know what it is that they need, and know what they're strong on, what they're weak on. Like, why would I sit there and discuss the value of the home? Before I discuss the value of the home, I want to know what their financial situation is. So they call me and they go, Ray, how much is the home worth? I said, I'll get to that in a second. That's important here, right? I'll get to that in a second. I said, can I ask you a question? I said, how much do you owe on this home? What is the outstanding balance of the mortgage? Now, if you don't ask that question, you could actually do a whole bunch of work, like at the listing presentation, and it could all be in vain. So one of my questions in terms of preparation is, I can't imagine as a realtor going to somebody's home and you not know the outstanding balance of the mortgage. I say that because I know a lot of people waste time here, waste time on this subject. Find out what they owe. And do they owe anything else? Is there any other liens? Because especially in today's market, are you going to go to homes where there's no commission money? Could that happen to you? So you might well find that out right away. And within the first 15 minutes of me at the house, I need to know, my number one thing I need to know, can they pay me? Does that sound a little brutal? I'm getting these funny stares. That sounds really bad, man.
Depends on the client, Cause some are gonna think that all you care about is your pocketbook and not that. It's a fine line, right?
It is.
But you're not asking if they can pay your commission, you
That's
just wanna
right.
know what you're doing is helping
Exactly.
to ascertain whether or not it's the right move for them. If you leave
Exactly.
that late, there's never an issue.
Exactly. Before we start discussing the value, let's get all the facts, let's find out what's going on. Let's find out what the need is, like why are we thinking of selling the home? See, the moment we know the motivation's high, and that's what in the preparation process, you can uncover the motivation. If you uncover the motivation, then everything else could be downhill. See, I'm doing this deal I was telling you about yesterday, and the buyer is highly motivated, and I found out why. The reason I asked enough questions to find out why they're so highly motivated. So when I said, look, the seller's price is this, and the commission's on top of that, he's a little upset, but he's paying the commission. He's a little upset. So, but research. In the preparation process, you don't have to know everything yourself. So there could be people that could help you, depending on how complex it is. But like, for instance, one of the things, the simplest things of people helping you is, or expert, who's an expert? Like, for instance, let's say, you're gonna meet with somebody today, somewhere, to discuss some business. But you know somebody that knows that person. That came out in the conversation. Well, wouldn't it be in your best interest to talk to that person that knows this other person that you're gonna go meet for the first time? Tell me a little bit about Paul. What's he like? Is he a Tim Hortons guy or is he a Star Wars guy? You know, maybe just as little as that.
That's important.
See, like, because some people, I mean, you know, some people, they're not going into one coffee shop when they're the other kind of coffee shop kind of guy. Just little things. I was trying to meet a guy yesterday, and the address they gave me, asked for Rebecca, was a Tim Hortons. And I was thinking, I don't know this guy, but I'm thinking, he's not a Tim Hortons guy. And so it wasn't Starbucks, but it was a block away on a different, one street was the same, the other one was different. But you know, that's how helps, get help from people. Okay. This is a good one. Well, it's kind of like the gutsy question about, are you feeling like you could work with me? This is kind of like this, it's a timing question. Knowing how to ask and negotiate at the right time is crucial. I use plumbers as an example because I have a lot of plumbing friends. I used to be a tradesman, right? So I have a lot of buddies that are plumbers. And they always mess this up. See, plumbers could get paid way more than they get paid. But they ask for the fee at the wrong time. Typically. You worked around plumbers at all? Can you see the situation? It's Christmas Eve, kitchen sink's plugged, or there's a bathroom that's plugged, there's people coming over. The plumber shows up, it's a mess. And he takes a look at it and he goes, what? I'll have this fixed in short order, right? If it's a good plumber, I'll run a snake through it or whatever, and I'll fix it. And after he gets it fixed, then he presents the bill. And there might possibly be a little discussion over the bill. Right? There might be discussion over the bill, depending on what the bill is. Christmas Eve, could be call out, it could be overtime, it could be a number of things. But if he'd have told the people what he said, you know, if he'd have told them twice the bill, I can just about guarantee most of the time, if you'd come in and say the bill is gonna be $80 or $100 to unplug the sink, and you show up and say, folks, I can probably get this done, but you know it's gonna be a $200 bill. I mean, tell me now if you don't want me to do it. And they're gonna go, $200, eh? I'm up to my eyeballs. You know, I can go to the neighbors in 2 seconds. You want me to go or you want me to stay? No, $200 will do it. They'll cry about $100 after the thing's done, because the guy's good, he can do it in 5 minutes. All right, he knows what he's doing, he's got it done in 5 minutes. So you gotta know the timing is a big deal when you negotiate. I always think of Kenny Rogers when I see this little thing that I've got on the screen. That great hymn, you gotta know when to hold, you gotta know when to walk away, you gotta know when to run, right? So as a negotiator, timing is the big deal, but you gotta know sometimes you just can't push anymore. You shouldn't push. There's times, that's what Matt was trying to tell us a minute ago. It might be, I think some people are more sensitive to these things than others. See, Matt's a sensitive guy. He knows not to push too hard. And I'm not that sensitive sometimes. I'm learning, but over the years, there's been times when I push too hard. I'm here to tell you, there's times I push too hard. But you definitely don't want to poison any long-term relationships. There's times I push too hard because I know this needs to be done here in this situation. Okay, this is a great one. This is great. Get your ego out of the way. Now, what that means, get your ego out of the way, it means, remember in the beginning we said, you get what you negotiate, not what you deserve. So, most of us get up in the morning, we go to work, and we're thinking day after day for the whole year, I should earn this much, right, for the year. Like we have a goal. So I have a need, right, but my goal must be attached to some need, even if it's philanthropic. It might be just for a charity, but I got a need. The marketplace doesn't care about your need. See, the only person that cares about your need is you. So for a lot of salespeople, especially new salespeople, they might struggle with this. I don't care how big your need is, do not let anybody know. See, so you got to care. And then, like this business about who gets credit for the deal. Just get the deal done. But in terms of caring, you got to care, but not that much. A great negotiating tool about getting your ego out of the way, let other people have the credit if they want to have the credit. If your buyer, make the buyer feel like he was the smart guy if he got the deal. Make your seller feel like he was the smart guy or gal if they made the deal come together. So it's not all about you. So there's a great line, it's this line. Care, but not so much. Care, but not so much. Don't get overboard on the caring because it might mess you up. Get your ego out of the way. Okay, this is probably, we're just getting warmed up in the whole process. There's so many things, right? But most people, actually, somebody told me the other day, I forget where, but they got this little pen, little recording pen.
That's my dad, Rob. Told me all about that.
Oh, maybe, see, I walk with his dad on the weekend, so then maybe that's who told me. Took his little recording pen and goes to a meeting and records what everybody says. And then he listens to it afterwards because he might have missed something. And of course, when Andreas is dad, he's pretty darn good, but English is still a second language, right? See, English is a second language, so sometimes in a heavy-duty negotiation, he might possibly miss something in the language alone. So listening is such a major part of your negotiation. Matter of fact, one of the key things when I go to people's places or when I go to meet with people, I'm meeting with a couple of guys this afternoon to negotiate something. And the only thing I'm taking with me is my notepad. And I'm going to ask them questions and take notes. I don't necessarily have to say anything. Because I've never sat down with these two guys, and there's 2 against 1. See, that's another thing about a negotiation. In a negotiation, see, that's why working in a team can be very powerful. Because on a tough deal, you can take people from your team with you. See, so that's just a little thought. You know what I mean, right? Like when there's 2 of you or 3 of you or whatever, and there's just one of them. It's amazing sometimes how you can make things move ahead just by the sheer the body. It's amazing. So ramp up your listening skills. Best negotiators are usually people who just they get all the facts and let everybody say their case. And if you just ask good questions, you might actually uncover their motivation, their reasons. So what are some of the questions to keep people talking? What should you ask them? I heard it. Open-ended questions. Give me an example. What are they going to start with? Come on.
For a seller?
Anybody.
Okay. Where do you?
Where?
Where?
What?
Want.
Why?
Why? Who?
How?
When?
How?
When? See, because you know, and how? How is the one on W question, but it would ask these questions. Like for instance, I'm amazed, you know, around here, like since I moved down to the Lower Mainland, I'm just always amazed at how many extra people could be on title. Just absolutely amazed. I had never seen this before, right? You go to some property and there's like 6 people on title. So you definitely got to ask the who question. You know, who else? Who are all the decision makers before I get there? I get people really messed up on this one because I'll be talking to somebody and they'll say, "Well, Ray, can you come over so we can discuss this?" And I would say, then I go, it's like a routine. See, I've done it so many times. I just go, "Well, who else is on title?" And they will, just my wife and I. I said, "So you want me to come over?" I said, "Well, what about your wife?" "Well, she's working." I said, "You know, I don't mind coming over and having coffee with you. But I said, for us to have this discussion without your wife or without your husband, we're going to have it again." "Oh, no, there," and then you get this nonsense, right? "Oh, no, she does whatever I tell her, or he does whatever I tell him." Really? I've only ever met one guy like that. I met a guy, and he came from Ontario, and he was gonna buy this house and send his wife pictures, and she's in Ontario, and I said, "Are you sure about this?" He goes, "Oh yeah, no problem." And I did the deal, and the wife was totally happy. I don't think like that's gotta be a one-off, and it was. It was a one-off.
That's so true like that.
Yeah, see, but there are exceptions, right?
Yeah.
It's the exception, not the rule. It's the one-off. It's an exception, and you know, people that argue from exceptions are what? Come on. Because you're gonna meet. Do you meet people that argue from exceptions?
Mm-hmm.
And people that argue from exceptions are what? You got to know this. They're mentally challenged. So you might not tell them that, Bob, but you need to know that. Would you agree? If somebody argues from an exception, it's a one-off, and they make the whole argument based on that, they're mentally challenged. Right, Matt?
I guess so.
They are. Anybody that argue, you see, like that would be like taking. Okay, here's a common another thing you should know. When we quote statistical data, like surveys. So, for instance, there's a survey that says that in Canada, there's many surveys, right? I'm just giving an example, but in Canada, they've done surveys that tell us that 75% of Canadians always buy brands. That's a big number. So, for instance, if I was going to win the coffee business, and I'm not going to use a brand, I'm going to create a brand. I should know, you know what? I need to have some deep pockets because I'm going to spend a lot of money before I ever make any money. Because my population base, I can only attract 1 out of 4 people with some gimmick. 75% of them won't even see my coffee stand. They won't even see it. It could be right across the street from Tim Hortons, and I got this big banner that says the best coffee in the world, and they won't even see it. Because that statistical data did not come from interviewing one person. So whenever you read an Angus Reid survey, they will tell you in the survey, if you read down the fine print, where the survey was done and how many people they surveyed. You know, and then you know the strength. The strength of a survey or a statistical piece of information has to do with the size of the sampling. The bigger the size, the more accurate it is, right? So this is why we're listening. This is an old one. This is as old as the hill because you got to know them all if you're going to be successful. If you mention a number first, you're going to lose. Get them to say the numbers. So, like for instance, I mean, this is amazing. Even guys who are supposed to be pros. I was helping somebody buy a vehicle in the fall, and we went and talked to the salesman, and you know, they had an asking price, and I said, there's no point in us talking of course, you have to have the look. So when you ask certain questions, this is probably the hardest thing for you to practice and get good at, is you gotta be able to you have to go like this. So you have to be able to go like this without cracking a smile, and then you have to laugh. So you have to go from the serious to the ridiculous. It's like a pendulum. So if you need to practice anything, like you need to practice that. See, because I'm staring you down, you're smiling. So you gotta practice that, because I practice on car dealers. I mean, they're pushovers. I looked at this guy and I said if that's gonna be if you're not budging off the prices, we might as well. I think that we're gonna leave right now. He says, what do you mean? I said, because we can't. Our budget doesn't allow us to pay that. And I just looked at him. He says, well, we'll sell this for less. The list price was $35,000, 33, 34,000. And he says, well, how much will you pay? I said, well, we can't pay over 30,000. So right away he went to a number, like, was 20 something. See, and all I had to do was ask that question, and give him the look. Ask the question, give him the look. But I've done this for tons of times. And if you learn how to do this, if you learn how to just give them the look and ask the question, when they say something, you just look at them like, are you crazy? Did you guys all do this? Can you all say it now? Are you crazy? I didn't hear everybody go there. And some of you still smiling. You gotta wipe the smiles off. Everybody, wipe the smiles off. You're not serious, are you? Mary.
You're not
Yeah.
serious.
You don't get this. You don't get this by listening to me. You're gonna have to practice these things. Ask Patsy. She thinks I'm crazy because I talk in the shower. See, in the shower, I practice my best lines because the shower is running, right? Yeah. Let the other guy talk about the numbers. If they don't talk about, if you don't mention any numbers, you can ask more questions. Like, you can always get to the numbers. But you see, the question you gotta ask yourself. A lot of people struggle with this. Helen will identify all the ethnic people, Asian and South Asian. Let me tell you, they all struggle thinking that the numbers is the big thing, and they're trying to want to convince me. And look at me. Look at me. Come on. You're trying to convince a guy who grew up in that culture that numbers are the thing. It's not the thing. They talk like it's a thing. You know why you think it's a thing? Because they've out-negotiated you already. They've already out-negotiated you. They've made you believe that if you had the lowest commission, they would do business with you. Mm-hmm. And that's their goal. They've been practicing for years. If you don't practice, you're like kind of dead in the water. It's not all about the money. Didn't God make everybody? They're pretty well all the same. Colors may be a little different, right? But needs are the same in their heart and mind, and the soul are the same, right? So they got needs, they got motivation, right? They got all these things. What you're telling me is I'm too lazy to uncover those needs. Because if you uncover the need and you can meet the need, price is not an object. Price is an object when?
Absence of value.
The absence of value. And for some people in the business, they're not going to get very much of a price. Let's just face the fact. While you're learning how to do this, and if you don't bring value, you're not going to get paid very much. Whose fault is that? It's your own fault. Don't blame it on real estate. Don't blame it on Remax. Don't blame it on... It's you. You need to work on yourself. We started off with that. So, okay. This is a tough one for some people. And you see, all parts of the whole negotiating thing, some of it's going to be easy for some people, some of it's going to be tough. Most people don't like to ask, so if you don't ask, you're not going to get. But I'd just like to tell you that asking for something, like, asking for more, asking for the big number, is no different than going fishing and you're not sure what the fish are biting. I fish with some really smart guys that have had lots of experience. The stuff you learn from those guys are just incredible. bunch of us were standing into the stream, it was full of fish, and we were casting, we're not hardly getting anything, and this guy comes up, we knew him, he comes up and he's out there and he's walking up and down the creek, and I'm wondering, what is he doing? He's just looking in the water. Then he goes back to his tackle box and he comes out with a certain fly, he puts it on the water and pulls it back, and wham! He's got a big, we call them dolly varden, they're a bull trout up north. He pulls his bull trout out of the water, and we're just like, what the heck's he doing? And you see, asking high is just like it's just like floating a fly out. It's completely different. He used a different fly. Later on, I found out from what he was doing. He wouldn't tell everybody at first. I bugged him until he told me. It was one of these men's and father-son fishing trips, right? He was the hero because he was catching all the fish. And I finally got it out of him. What he was doing was looking up and down the river at the kind of bugs that were in the river that the fish were already eating. And he made sure that his fly was just as close to that as he could find. So he was actually looking for these little bugs. Just go high or go home. So before you head into a deal, a transaction, like somebody was asking this morning, Ray, I'm doing it for sale, what do I charge? Well, I'm going to tell you this. Everybody's going to have trouble because there's an underlying psychological issue that everybody has. So it's different for everybody, but everybody has these issues. So the underlying psychological issue is you cannot earn more than your own self-image of yourself. So don't feel, I mean, when you realize, hey, I'll work for this or I'll do this for that. It's not about the other person. It's about your own self-image. And there's a rule that you can't earn more than what you think you can earn. Matter of fact, we have a rule that we discuss, some of us that discuss these things, that most people when they get into business or they get into sales and they get into commission type, negotiating their keep. This is different than going, well, how much does the job pay and I go work there? This is totally different. Because every job is paid different, right? They pay you different. So what happens with people is their self-image typically, right? This is the rule, not the exception. Typically, people cannot envision that they can earn more than twice what they were earning before they got here. Make sense? They just can't think, they just cannot envision a number that big. So, if I can, would you like me to help you with this? Okay, well, what you need to do is reprogram yourself. Now, I've actually been thinking, I've done this for years now, just a little on the side. I'm actually thinking of starting a session where I help people because, I help people for about an hour. I'm gonna do it with some people. I'm gonna help them for about an hour a day, a week, every 2 weeks, because it's too much information. But let me give you an example of how you reprogram yourself, just as an example. As an example of how you reprogram yourself, this is simple. Just pretend that you have $1 million. Like go home today, pretend to have $1 million. And then make a list of what I need to spend this money, what would I do with it? And write it all out. Now, I do another exercise, and people think, this is dumb. Yeah, but do it. Just do it and see how dumb it is. If you've never, who's ever taken a piece of paper, calculator, pen, and just punched in the numbers? I worked for 1 day for a penny. The second day, I worked for 2 pennies. And I actually worked it out for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it?
Double your penny.
Yeah, you see, but if you've never done it, go do it. Yeah. It's the same as the $1 million. Okay, I've got $1 million, and I make a list. I'm literally gonna make a list. Okay, I'm just gonna spend. Okay, well, and so what are you gonna spend it on? You're only gonna spend it on things you want. You're not gonna spend on what I want. I mean, you're not gonna think I should get myself a really good trap shooting shotgun. You're not gonna think of that. See, but the reason I throw it out there is, but I've been thinking for a long time, I should get a really good trap gun. So if you gave me the $1 million, I'm gonna right away go, I priced it out the other day. I mean, a good trap gun's like $5 grand. I'm not getting one of those. Unless I get a secondhand for $1,000, then I might buy it, right? So make your list. There's a couple of exercises I gave you, and go to work on them. There's a whole bunch more stuff. Would anybody be interested in doing a program like that? I would help you. But there's a couple little things you need to reprogram yourself. Those are 2 little exercises. Go do those ones. It'll just help your inner self-image person. Because I've watched a lot of people leave so much money on the table. It's a shame. I had a gal, early 40s. She's a realtor. She came and saw me last year in Surrey. You know, we thought I should have a meeting with her. Maybe she should come join us, right? And in the meeting I'm having with her, I just asked her what she did and what's her business like, and it was just stuff like that. And she said, she was telling me about this deal she did. She just did a transaction. It was several million. It was about $3 million transaction. And she had a tremendous commission negotiated with the seller. But then when the offer came in and they put the deal together, the seller out-negotiated her, and she left $65,000 on the table. And here she's having this meeting with me, asking me about our fees. And I said to her, she's East Indian. So I said to her, Jinder, I said, did you ask the seller this question? No. I said, did you ask the seller this question? No. I said, Jinder, if you were working with me, I said, not only would I have told you what to do, I'd come with you. Like if there's a salesperson in our group that's leaves $65,000 on the table, I'm coming with you. Just call me. Just call me. I'm coming with you. We'll slam down that puppy, and you can buy the coffee afterwards. See, I don't need I don't need to eat a steak or anything, but a coffee. Celery. We'll go for coffee, and I'll help you get that $65,000. But her self-image was so low. You see, her self-image is so low that she cannot grasp the fact that I could help her in her next transaction. She just thinks, well, I gotta find the cheapest place to work, so she's not working with us. And nobody's helping. She'll lose another $65,000. She'll lose more money than the fees are, or the difference in the fees. There's not the fees, the difference in the fees.
But isn't that right? It becomes habit forming.
Absolutely.
And you make your mind up that you're going to do it, or you make your mind up that you're not going to do that, and it will happen whenever way you want to make your mind up. It's up to you.
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
It's up to you. When you work on your self-image and you become strong on the inside, Pamela was talking about mental toughness. This is another way of saying it. If you become mentally tough, people feel it. Mm-hmm. So, who in the room has not read Napoleon Hill? One person. Okay, for those of you that have read Napoleon Hill, it's not the kind of book you read once. Because there's some incredible stories in there that should actually become part of your story. But one of the ones is the one with the little black girl. She was in the mill there with when Napoleon Hill went to interview the landowner, remember? And he turned to the little black girl and he says, go to the house and get us some lemonade. And she stuck her hand out. She says, whatever she said, 5 cents or 25 cents. She says, Master, that'd be 5 cents. And he just said, kind of ignoring it. And she was standing there and goes, go get the lemonade. And she says, yeah. She says, but it's going to cost you 5 cents. And this went on back and forth. And then finally he went over. He gave her the 5 cents. And Napoleon Hill wrote in the book. He says, I was amazed. He said, I watched that little girl just whip him. Mm-hmm. Just whipped him. Brought him into submission. Brought him over there and he paid the 5 cents and he got the job. She went and did it. See, so if your mind is not made up, her little mind was made up. And when your mind's made up, people can feel it. So you can tell them something, but they will actually feel it. When they feel it, now they're dealing with something different, because when you feel, it affects you. It's kind of like I was reading this, I was listening to this documentary. They're talking about how in the movies, in the early days of the movies in the 1800s, there was no sound. And they said, can you imagine some of the modern day movies without sound? There would be nothing. Like the Jaws movies. Like the Jaws movies is nothing without the sound. Because with the sound, it makes your heart race. Alright, it gets the adrenaline going. Okay, we're on to technique number 6. Technique number 6 is, hey, see, some of these things follow. So like for instance, we in a previous slide, we talked about aiming high. You know, so if somebody's talking, in any negotiation, see, like we might be negotiating price, we might be negotiating commissions, but you should always expect that people are gonna compromise. There's gonna be a compromise. You should be expecting it. So, and you should be thinking ahead, I wonder what the concession might be. So like for instance, when I help people make concessions, I always say to people, I said, you wanna win this negotiation? They go, yeah. I said, well, don't ask for everything, and, you know, don't ask for everything. Don't try to get everything in one shot. Let's figure out what's the most important thing for you. Well, Ray, the most important thing for us is the price. I said, well, then why don't you give up everything else? Matter of fact, I've written offers and presented them with no dates on the contract. So I met the listing agent with the seller. I show up. I have my price and I got my signature. I've got no dates. And I'll tell you what, I have turned the other guy's seller inside out. They go, well, when is the deal complete? I said, man, whenever it suits you. Within reason. I mean, if it's ridiculous, I might have to make a phone call. But if it's within a few months, I said, I can make that decision. I said, my guy is more concerned about getting this at the right price, and as long as you're done. And you know what my buyer wanted? He says, Ray, make sure we don't inconvenience the seller. And she just, smile comes on her face, go, really? Like your guy was good? I said, yeah, he was really concerned. She says, Ray, I don't want the house that bad that I would inconvenience these people. She goes, what a nice guy. She turns to the listing and she says, I like Ray. I think we're gonna do a multiple offer. I've been in a, matter of fact, in that particular situation, I beat another realtor and got the deal. But the problem was, the other realtor was buying the house for herself. And she'd been 2 weeks negotiating the deal. And she still hates me to this day. What can I do? So look, expect to make concessions, and if you can actually get the people, like if you can ask the people, hey, what concessions would you make on this deal? What's the most important thing? And if you get that figured out, it just helps you ask the right questions, right? Hopefully the other people they're thinking you're gonna make some concessions as well. So they, you know, and now you're not the only guy thinking this. And when people make offers, it's like, I did something recently, I mean, in the last number of years, you know, because when I was presenting lots of offers, there was a time in my life where I was selling the home every 3 days. That was my average. So every 3 days I'm putting the sale together. So during that time, I mean, I didn't have all the information I have today, so you learn as you go, right? But one of the things I didn't know back then was not to discuss the price. So you guys might as well learn this right out of the gate. So when you're negotiating offers, right, like you phone your seller up. You've done this, right? We've all phoned the seller up, say, we got an offer. You've done this, right, Jim? And they say on the phone, well, Jim, how much is it? Sometimes. You're going to go over there, but sometimes they'll say, every time. They go, well, Jim, how much is it? And so what I learned how to do, short circuit yourself. Do not say numbers, say percentages. The numbers they'll see when you get there. I listed this house in Murrayville. This thing worked like a charm. I've done it many times, but last year I listed this house in Murrayville. We listed at 610. And Tracy Bosch brings me an offer of 575 or 5, you know, if you looked at the numbers, you're gonna go, and at 610, I am below the last sale. I'm priced between wholesale and retail. I'm gonna sell close to 610. So he brings me an offer of 575 or 5 something like that. And so I got good news. I said, what is the good news? We got an offer. How much is it? I said, I'm on my way over. I said, but it's good news. They said, well, why is it good news? Because my answer was, you could take a calculator, I forget the number, but if you take 575 or 580 divided by 610, multiplied by 100, I said, it's 90% of the list price. It was like around 90% of the list price. Really? I said, yeah. I said, well, I'm gonna wait, Ray, come over right away, let's work on it, let's get this done, it's 90%. Well, if I said it's $5.75, their hearts would drop, right? So now they're all excited, and I go there, and they go, well, Ray, it's only $5.75. Yeah, it's 90% of the list price. I said, so, of course, what do you think I sold it for? I sold it for 97% of the list price. Now everybody's excited. So, okay, this is a screw-up. Holy smokers, you gotta work on this. You have to work on your facial expressions. Like, if it's going good, don't get excited. When it's going good, you go, really? That's it? Like they brought more than you thought they were gonna bring. And when they tell it to you, if you're weak, you're gonna get excited. You're gonna smile. If you're weak. If you're unpracticed. This will happen to you, Andres. So you gotta start practicing. You gotta look in the mirror every morning and go, this. Pretend you're not even close. You're gonna have to really work at this because you're smiling. So when they come up with something that's more than what you thought, you go,
Sounds good.
really? That's it?
Okay.
You're kidding me.
Okay.
Here's one for you. You see, if you know your people, who you're representing, then you know how to do these things. So, I bring an offer, Marlene Siebert, she brings me this offer on a condo a few years ago. I take it to the sellers. Don't tell this story. I take it to the sellers and they go, Ray, we would accept this much, whatever the number is. I phoned Marlene back and I said, Marlene, you're close. I think we're gonna put this together, but this number's not gonna work. Will work, Ray. I said, I don't know. I said, you're close, but it's not gonna work. I think what it was, they would have accepted her offer. And the husband, yeah, I'll accept the offer. And the wife says, yeah, if my husband wants to accept it, I'll accept it. Well, leave it with me then. So I go back to Marlene and say, Marlene, you're really close. I said, it's not gonna work. Really? So she goes back and she comes back and says, Ray, the best I can do is another $1,500. I said, I think I probably get that to work. I said, I can't promise you anything. I said, to get it all initial. I'll do my best. So when I get over to the house, they're like, I got them $1,500 more. And I looked at the husband and I said, I didn't get you guys $1,500 more. I got your wife $1,500 more. He's like, well, what do you mean, Ray? I said, because you told me you would take that other offer. I said, I've been looking at you, your wife, and she takes care of the kids and all that stuff. The extra $1,500 for the wife. And she's like, I like Ray.
So, Ray, in that situation, did Marlene not ask you to write a counter offer?
No. Well, she could have.
Yeah.
But she didn't.
Yeah. So if you had been put in that position where they were
Well, that's a different story.
Okay.
You see, every story is a different story.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when she had this offer that they would have accepted, I'm not going to change it. See, because I don't know. I'm not going to, you see, here, okay, you see what I'm saying? I'm not going to screw around with something and lose the deal. See, that's why I didn't change it, because they would have accepted it. If Marlene had come back to me and said, Ray, she says, that's it, there's absolutely no way. I said, well, let me see what I can do. Now I'm about, now I haven't played all my cards.
So your wordage was, you're really close, I think we can make this work.
No, I said, we're close. I said, but we're close, we're almost there.
We're almost there.
We're almost there. I said, is there any way you guys can come up? I said, we're almost there. Don't try this on your first one. On your first one, just get the deal done. But when you realize that there's more to the business, right, Jim? There's more to this. There's so much more to the business. You see, now that family and that lady, do you think when the word real estate comes up, she's only got one name in her head? All day long. See, that's how you build your business. You build your business by, you see, If you have skills, you will never have bills that bother you. You see, the problem in life is people have bills that bother them. If you have bills that bother you, it's because you lack skill. You go to work on the skill, the bills won't be an issue.
We had one recently, realtor, we were working on this deal and she says, I just wanna get this together cause I'm leaving for Korea, like really fast, I don't have time. Nothing to do with her buyers, so they do it all, we're down to inspection, and there's little things, hardly anything. She says, you know, my people want those things fixed or we're not gonna make this go. But she's already told us, they have to have a place, she's leaving for Korea the next day, it's gotta be done.
Talk about losing already.
And so it was like, it's not happening. It is not happening. You can tell people they either want the house or not. Our sellers were freaking out. We said, just relax. The realtor will pay it herself because she wants to be on that plane tomorrow and she does not want to do this work all over again. So, of course, they did remove subjects. It was done. But, so it's not always what you say about your clients, it's what you say about yourself.
See, now, in those kind of situations, actually, that is actually coming up.
Oh, okay.
That I have a scenario, that is a negotiating tactic. What you just described is an actual tactic. It's called a time crunch tactic. I'm gonna cover all these things. You see, in the session, if you come for the whole thing, like we're not gonna do it all today, we're just gonna get started today, we're gonna do, but what I'm gonna show you in these sessions is over 50, I think it's like more like 80 tried and proven techniques, tactics that people use. You just have to know them, so you know. The moment that somebody says, time, we got a time issue, that is a negotiating tactic. It's been done for years. But one of the ways to deal with those kinds of things is that was good. Because you see, Pamela already knew it was a tactic. She just knew she was gonna, and the woman had to show her hand, so it was not an issue. But if you wanna soften for them when they pull this stuff, when you know it's gonna be like, no way, just to ease the pain, I would say, Tim, I don't know if I can help you here, buddy. I said, I know my sellers, I don't think it's gonna work. I know Pamela, like if he's the other, I said, Tim, I don't think it's gonna work. I said, it's probably not gonna happen. I said, but here's what I'm gonna do for you. I'm gonna go and see if I can make it work. However, I don't want you to raise your hopes a lot because chances are it's not gonna happen. And I don't usually fail. I'll try to see if I can make this work for you. Now when I come back and it doesn't work, it's not Tim's fault, it's my fault. I'll take the punch. I go, Tim, I'm really sorry, buddy. I went to bat for you, and they just laughed me out of the house. They just said, Ray, they swore at me. They said, Ray, go suck eggs. I mean, I tried. I really tried to get that for you. And she goes, okay. So there's other ways, when you already know you're gonna win, you don't need to break the guy's nose now, right? Because you still want to be, you see, here's the deal. You know that realtor?
We did a lot of business with
Exactly.
We love doing business.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you know.
Exactly. You see, you always want to realize that, you see, a lot of times we are negotiating with people that are unarmed. So once you get armed and you know how to do this, you have an unfair advantage. When you have the unfair advantage, you don't want to be arrogant with it. The skills that if you develop these skills, you don't be arrogant. You just want to use them to keep doing the business better and better. And the other people who are your competitors, you don't need to teach them anything. Like that's her problem. Is it Emily? I phoned her up a couple of times, made an appointment with her. She never kept the appointment and she won't return my calls. You know what? Like Emily is one of those people that if I got to know her,
She calls us all the time.
if I got to know her, I would, her knowing me, I'd put $200,000 extra in her pocket every year that she leaves on the table. Because she does know what she's doing.
Yeah.
Like she knows enough to make like a big chunk of money, but she's leaving like several $100,000 on the table every year because she doesn't know what she's doing. She's not starving, but she's just leaving money on the table, huge money.
She also, all of a sudden, okay, I can't tell you this, but I'm telling you this. Okay, there's a divorce, it's really, really bad. It's really bad. Don't tell your seller, don't tell your buyers. It's like, I'm gonna do agency, I'm using this one. But she, yeah.
Pam sucks her in. Pam is just making a killing on this woman, eh?
She makes good money. She makes good
She
money.
makes good
And
money.
we love doing business with her, but we know how she works, so.
As soon as she said going to Korea, I thought, I wonder if that's Emma.
She's pulled that twice on us now. She's going to Korea lots.
See, Pam knows how to practice her best. Look, Andres, you need to work on this. Matt, you need to work on this. You know, like you gotta go, really? You know, practice this look. You never know what else is available to you, right? My clicker, what's going on? My clicker's dying. You know what BAT is? It's a thing, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. You might already have the agreement negotiated, but there may be some alternatives to what you've got. And it's just it's old, but you should know that. Okay. This is a big deal. The big deal is, remember I said earlier that one of the things you got to know that people will feel you before you can tell them you can tell them everything in the world. If they don't feel anything, they buy the feeling, not the words. That's another way of saying it. They buy the feeling, not the words. So one of the things that people buy when they buy you, it's not what you said. It's not your marketing piece. It's not your slogan. Is they go, this is what I want people to buy when they buy me. When they buy me, if they sign the listing contract, all I care about, really, is that they realize that if that property is listed with me, heaven help anybody that comes around trying to screw with you guys, because they'll have to go through me. Like and then they understand. They know. You see, fees are not an issue now. Am I paying way more than everybody else? You know, I guess. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm paying him anymore. I forget. Because, I'll tell you why he's here. He's going to get the job done. And he'll move heaven and earth to get it done if he has to. That's how I make him. You got to make him feel that. So, people buy commitment. See, are you committed or are you just here to put in foundations? See, in the real estate business, the public knows that the majority of people that get licensed, these are people that put in foundations and leave. They already know that. So you see, matter of fact, you'll find this out in you're in the second year, right, Matt? Correct. Well, Matt grew up here. I can pick on you. You're going to get this question through your second and third year. So you're still selling real estate, eh, Matt? Have you got it already?
No.
But you will. Have you got it already?
No.
You will. But then Jim, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, you'll get it in your second and your third year. Jim's already had it. You've had that, eh, Pam?
I'm not sure.
Well, people will say to you, know, like after you got started in the business, by your second or third year, they go, are you still selling real estate?
Yeah.
You've got it, right?
Or they ask you how long and they say, really? It's been that long?
Yeah, it's been that long already. You see, because most people know that people that get into real estate have no commitment. They already know that. They know that the real estate business is full of people who start. They have no substance. They don't work on themselves. They're only, what the perception is, these people are here for a quick buck. They bring nothing to the table. They're weak. They're just a notch above, they're a notch above lawyers and hookers, and they think they're great. Just a notch above. Matter of fact, the Sun, the Vancouver Sun does a survey every year. And they publish it in the paper. And realtors are like one notch above hookers and lawyers. And car salesmen. Like there are some people below us in the public perception. Like we're not up there with firemen, that's for sure, right? Firemen are way up at the top of the list, right?
We should be doing calendar shoots.
Those sexy calendar sheets for real estate.
Yeah,
agents?
Bob, me and you.
We'll bring them in.
Actually, you see, like we joke about that, but you see, the public perception is these guys put their life on the line every day to save families. That's the perception, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when people feel that you actually are committed to their cause, to their whatever it is they're trying to accomplish, come hell or high water, like I'm doing this deal, I'm charging the guy $120,000 But he already knows, if whatever has to be done, if he says to me, Ray, I need you to fly with me, we need to go to Fort St. John on the weekend. Well, he knows, I got things happening this weekend, I'd probably cancel them to put this deal together. You know, and I got a deal I'm gonna make 120 in commission. I will cancel a lot of stuff, and my wife will understand.
Of course.
She'll understand. She goes, "You're not coming to that party? We got a party thing." I was coming to the party all the way along to the Rotary thing, right? But my guy says, "Wait, we're flying up Saturday morning to make this thing happen." I'm going Saturday morning. So it's a commitment. It's a big deal. So you gotta offer this kind of comfort. Now, it's not a word offer. See, if I don't want you to mistake this. Like, you have the words, but it's not a word thing. They have to feel it. Whatever it is you're offering, it's not the word. You have to have the words. You gotta have the words, but it's the feeling you gotta convey. Okay. Let me just help you here. Jim Rohn says it this way. He says you cannot do a good deal with a bad person. So when you realize that the other people are not committed, you know, like, then ask me, Ray, have you ever done one-off deals? Yes. Have I done deals with uncommitted people? Yeah. Why am I doing it? Just to get the commission. Like there's times I make a judgment call and I go, you know what, I'm gonna do this, it's gonna earn me this much money, and it's a chance I'm taking because it might not even complete, but I know what I'm doing. You know, everybody in the commission business is probably gonna do a few of these. But if you get yourself doing this all the time, which is a mistake that some people make, I call them Pop-Tarts. I've always got people that I'm certain that are in our midst. We have them now, we always will have them. They're Pop-Tarts. Because they don't care about the other commitments, so they're at their beck and call. They're like a Pop-Tart. If somebody presses the button on the toaster, they pop up, right? And they're not concerned about the commitment of the other people.
Ray, I think on that one, I think when our business took a turn to be more successful is when we learned to cut people loose that sucked you out, drained you, and we learned to demand the respect of a professional. Like, no, oh, can you just send me some listings? No, let's take a look, let's talk together, let's meet, discuss what your needs are, sign how we're gonna work together, and then we'll go from there. As soon as we put that into place, and people that just were negative all the time, because in our business we can't be negative, we need to be, and sometimes you have to cut the odd person loose.
I'm glad you're bringing this up. All the ladies in the room especially should listen, because you know, ladies are caregivers, they're more caring than men, typically. And some men are that way too, right? But if you try to please everybody without having little barriers, little sieves to separate out the wheat from the chaff. You see, I come at things with images in my head all the time. And so every time I go to meet somebody for the first time, I see myself driving a combine. That's how I see myself. I'm combining, and I stop and I check the sieves, you know, to make sure everything's are set right. And I have these same questions. See, so I like the questions of, I need to meet you, I need to get confirmation of who you are, so that means I need to collect some data. You know, I love it when I see guys in the office meet people, and the first thing they do is they ask for their driver's license, they go to the photocopier, they copy it. But by the way, you don't have to have a photocopier. This is a photocopy right here. So you meet somebody, you say, can I see your ID? Click it with your phone on this, you got it. If they won't, these are just little, so you have all these checklists. If they give you any pushback, you just say, David Rochelle, my manager, don't say me, Ray said David. Just blame my David. David and Ron, he's the president. Well, the president of our board, who's also the manager of our office, he's cold Ron's name. He won't let me, we have to send in this information for everybody we work on. You know, there's a girl in Victoria, if she'd have been in our training classes and done all this stuff, she wouldn't be dead today.
And they'd know.
Hey? And they would know.
They would have a record of who she was meeting.
A really nice young lady,
Yeah.
in her 20s, beautiful, gorgeous young gal. Her dad's a realtor in Calgary, so she should have known. she meets these people and they kill her.
They still haven't found him.
They still haven't found him. You know what she didn't do? She didn't collect any data. She just, you know what, she was a Pop-Tart.
Should react to real estate.
Reactive. She got a phone call. I love it. I do this, I started to pick on because nobody's staying in the room for me to, you know, sorry, Cooner isn't here, or Raj isn't here, but I love it when these things phone me up. They'll phone me up and they'll go, Ray, you got this listing on Princess Crescent, how much is that listing? I said, yes, I have a listing on Princess Crescent. I said, who is your realtor? No, you're the realtor. I said, no, I know I'm the realtor. I said, but who's your cousin that's a realtor? You have a cousin or a brother in the business? Well, you're the realtor, just wanna know all the information. I said, I don't give the information out unless you wanna meet with me. I said, you wanna meet with me? I just want the information. I said, I don't have time to look up information except for my clients. I'm so busy that if I was working with you, I would not only look this up, I would look up every house. I said, do you want to find the best house at the best price? I just want the price of that house. I said, then you need to phone your realtor.
Oh, she's on holiday.
Yes, but that's too bad because I only have enough time to give information to people that I'm working with. So if we're gonna work together, I will give you that and a whole bunch of information. I could save you a ton of money and time if that's important to you. But I said, step one is we need to meet for a little coffee and bring your ID with you. I used to have I haven't taken floor calls in years. But when I was selling all the time, I had no floor duty. For 15 years, no floor duty. Selling, no floor duty. Never took floor time. And because I owned the office too, so I was too busy selling real estate and I owned half the office, and I didn't want the floor calls because the salespeople like that, right? Every once in a while, somebody would say to me, Ray, can you take my floor time? They come in my office, come by. Ray, can you take my floor time? I'm just gonna step up for an hour. I said I would. I said, but you're gonna hate me if I do. I said, so promise me you're not gonna hate me. What do you mean, Ray? I said, because the phone rings, I'll make money on it. And the reason is because I know how to take floor calls. There is no call that's gonna come in that I don't know how to take and turn it into business. So if you can't say that, that means you need to learn a lot of stuff. I do a session on that if you want. Okay, the way to get this kind of commitment out of people. You see, to get commitment out of people, you can't be cold. So you have to warm them up. So you have to socialize with them. If you socialize with them, you can get them committed. The way to socialize is the mass of the formula that Kurt mentioned earlier. The formula again, Kurt, was? Form. Family, occupation, recreation, message. So let me help you here. The best way to socialize with people is to see if you know somebody that they know. That's the goal. The moment you can make a connection with somebody they know. So now it could be that they tell you about their family, where they live, where they grew up, where the history of the family is, and then through that connection, something will spark. But if you don't get it there, I usually get it. If I don't get it in the first, I get it in the second. So when I ask them what did they do? There's a whole series of questions of nobody is born doing whatever they do, right? So they have to learn it someplace. So where do they go to school? What trade school they went to? Ask a bunch of questions. And usually on that if I haven't got it on the first one, I got the second. They tell me, I got an undercover RCMP officer. I blew his cover. And he had to phone a friend of mine. He made the mistake of talking to me on a plane. So I'm sitting on a plane next to this guy. We start talking. I said, what do you do? He says, I sell welding equipment. Really? I said, wow. I said, he's flying from Abbotsford. We're going to Calgary. He said, yeah, my office is in Calgary. I sell welding equipment. Really? I said, what company is that for? He tells me the company name. Sounds different type of a name, I didn't hear it. I said, well, you guys must do stuff up in Fort St. John, don't you? Like, if you're in Calgary and you sell welding equipment, there's not a chance you could sell welding equipment, not ship stuff to Fort St. John. Because Fort St. John has more portable welders than probably any place in Canada. It's the welding capital of the world, Fort St. John. When they're putting the pipeline, you know, when they put that gas pipeline from the mainland over to the island, you know who did all the welding? Fort St. John guys. They're the best pipeline welders in the world. So he's telling me this thing, and I go, I said, well, do you know so-and-so? Do you know the supplier? You know the supplier? And he goes, no. I said, well, I know. I said, I'm surprised. I said, if you're in the welding business, you gotta know that. You gotta know these people. There's only two major places in Fort St. John to buy welding supplies. And this was just a cover. So we get talking a little bit more, and I said to him, I said, so where'd you live before Abbotsford? He said, I lived in Peace River, Alberta. So right off the bat, I said, do you know Stan Hogan? And he goes, yes, Stan used to be my pastor. See, so now I actually got some truth out of him, but he's been telling me all this other stuff. So Stan Noel at that time wasn't pastoring, he was actually selling insurance. So I get off the plane in Calgary and walk through the airport, my phone rings. It's Stan. I said, Stan, I was just talking about you. He says, yes, I know. He says, why didn't you learn to just shut up and not bug all these people? He said, you just blew an RCMP guy's cover. I said, he's on his way to this thing they're doing, you know, and they bring these guys in, and they're going to bust these guys that are doing drugs, you know, through the welding business, right? He says, you blew the guy's cover, so could you not say anything about this guy or his name or anything? Just shut up. Okay, Stan, thank you very much. He said, I know this guy well. He used to go to my church, and now he's a cop and everything. So you see, socialize is the big deal, and learning the form. Hey, thoughtful. You know, sometimes you can win them over by just by holding a door. You know, if you don't hold the door for everybody, not only women, it's so many little things, right? There's so many things you can do. Just all kinds of little gestures, really. And you got to be a master of small talk. But you're not doing the talking; they're doing the talking. So you're asking the question, but you got to get people warmed up, and you got to have a little bit of humor. Has everybody got 3 jokes they can tell? Jimmy, you got 3 jokes?
I think I could probably come up with 3.
Yeah. Kurt?
Probably come up with 3.
You know what I'm saying? So you should actually have some humor stories. And and the best way, when you hear a good story, write it down. When you hear a good joke, write it down. And actually keep a file on stories and jokes, because you forget them. And some of them are really humorous, and that's a great way to kind of warm people up. You can warm everybody up with a little humor. Okay. Number 8, we're moving along here. Jeez, we got 15 minutes. Okay. This is a problem that a lot of people have. You absorb their problem. See? Like when people have a lot of pain and they start telling you the pain, you're gonna believe it. Remember the phrase, you have to care, but not that much. So be careful. Be careful. If you absorb their problem, it weakens you.
Gives you an opportunity to solve those problems.
Yes. Yes. You can work on. That's right. But don't accept the problem. It's not your problem. Now, Pam has been in the business long enough where she's met realtors that come with the client's problems, right? Mm-hmm. And it's already their problem. Mm-hmm. And this is how they start. Ray, they go, Pam, you know, we'd really like to do this, but with my people, as soon as they say my people, they're screwed. The moment you start talking like the majority of people who don't do business have the wrong language, and they always refer to my people. Learn to talk third party, because if you say my people, all your people's problems will be yours. Start talking about the sellers and the buyers. Look, I had a meeting with buyers, I had a meeting with the sellers, and here's what they said. The moment you start saying my people, you're finished, because you absorb their problem. The language will help you absorb it. You know, like I love it when they say, well, Ray, there isn't enough money to do this. I said, you mean there's not enough money in the world? Or in this house? What, like, I don't know what you mean. There isn't enough money in the world, in the whole world, there's not enough money. Well, Ray, I don't have the down payment. I have to leave I got a guy right now, he left another country, I have to leave everything behind. And we're trying to find his down payment, and I'm trying to find a number of different ways to get it. But I'm making him think outside the box. I said, you must know people that have the money. I said, because if we can find the money, we can probably help you somewhere find the money. Don't throw it down. See, I got this a few times. I got this a few times in a few different slides, but it's a big deal. You gotta care, but not that much. Okay, you have principles. So if you don't have any principles already to live by, maybe you should start thinking, what are my principles? Because sometimes the easiest way to negotiate something is to say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. So whatever it is. You know, like there's certain things I won't do. So I just won't do certain things. There.
Share one recently, Ray, just like your feedback on it. Listing realtor says, hey, my client's got some government problems. And we're listed for 1.3. He'll take 125, but he needs to get 250 clear in his pocket. Can you guys write at 1? And would you consider writing a 250 check to his business? I said, are you seriously asking me this? How can you, how would you keep that? How would you spin that around? You know, other than just saying no.
I'm
flat out, no, we'll deal with the
Tim, this is
full
an
price
easy,
offer.
Tim, this is an easy one for me. This is easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's why it's easy. A lot of times when people, I categorize, you see, what I do is I have a category of how to deal with certain things. So everything that falls into that category, I can use this one thing. I have other categories, right? So one of the categories I have is I say to people all the time, Ray, can you do some lines? I said, you know what? I said, you know this, I used to just tell them, but showing is better. So I said, you know what, here's the deal. Here's my problem. I got a problem. Let me tell you what my problem is. Somewhere in my wallet I've got a copy of, here we go, you know the board's, the thing we get from the board, right? So showing is always better than telling. So everybody's got one, right? Should carry with you. I say, folks, I hear what you're saying. Tim, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I wish I could help, but I got a problem. See this license they gave me? I don't want them to take it away from me. So on the moment I do something illegal, I'm gonna know this is gonna get pulled. See, so yes, I have several categories, but one of the categories is legal, and the other category is moral. See, like for instance, we could just summarize a lot of what we do and say, if you stay within the law, legal, and you stay within what is moral, ethical, you just about got it made in the shade, AJ? Like, if I didn't break a law and it wasn't immoral and unethical, I'm probably okay. See, so I was talking to a guy yesterday, and he was concerned because he's had a few problems, and he's talking about coming to join us. And so he's telling me about some of his problems, and some of his problems actually weren't problems. He's young and he's aggressive, and his manager doesn't know how to deal with him, see? And the manager doesn't have it clearly in his head, because he's actually gonna lose this guy just because he's not doing something illegal and he's not doing something immoral, but he's just doing something outside of the box. He's creative. And it kind of bothers the manager because he's never heard of this before, but it's not illegal or immoral. So that's my chance to tell him. I said, the only thing you gotta worry about when you come work with us is legal, because David shall I kill you if you do illegal stuff, because his license is on the line. And then he'll also kill you if you're doing something immoral. Because sooner or later you do something immoral, or what's the word I just used before that? Unethical. Immoral and unethical. That's gonna come back to bite you. See, like when you deal with other realtors, I'm saying, you know, you hear me say this over and over. I've always held other realtors as the largest source of my income. So my number one source of income in the real estate business is realtors. See, like this lady that Pam deals with, she doesn't know what the heck she's doing, but she's making Pam a lot of money. Cause Pam gets a listing and she's got the buyers and she sells them. So she doesn't wanna get that woman upset, right? She keeps dealing with her. So, legal and moral. Figure it out. I give you a little tip on the moral side. The little tip on the moral side. If something has the appearance of good, could it be evil? Could something look good, but in actual fact it's not good? Could happen. Could look good, but it's not good. I'll ask you this question. Could something look bad and be good? Chances are not. If something has the appearance of bad, probably bad. You see, if you argue with exceptions here now, you have to remember you could be mentally challenged. It's very unlikely that something appears bad and is good. Something could appear good and be bad, but appearing bad and be good is, leave that one alone. Enough. So, you know, like, I mean, Tim was asking the question, which was actually a good question. I mean, because what Tim asked, that question that Tim was asking, that's actually a common question in many different forms, did you?
I've never run into that one.
You never run into, no, but in different forms.
In different forms.
In different forms of it. Might not be right like that. But you see, one of the things that's going on in the business is that there's a lot of transactions going through, and what's wrong about those transactions, legally wrong, is that there's people that are trying to, the term is defraud the banks, fool a bank. There's many different forms of trying to fool or lie to a lending institution. Many different forms. I had a doctor just 2 days ago. I'm meeting with this doctor, and he, you know, I'm kind of his advisor in this. He's putting together a deal, and he's asking me for advice. So what he's saying to me, he's saying he's pretty well got the deal negotiated with this credit union, and they're gonna pay him, they're gonna lend him 80% of the appraisal. But he's going to buy it through the foreclosure process for like 60% of the appraisal. He's gonna pay 60% of the appraisal. Then he's gonna take the appraisal and borrow 80%. And I said to him, I said, you told him all this? Well, yeah, I told him all this. There's no way he's told him it all. There is no credit union. There is no bank that's gonna lend 80% of the appraisal when they find out that you paid less. Now they're gonna lend you. You see, he's allowing himself to live in this gray world because what he's asked is not enough questions. So he wants to believe that did the bank say they paid 80% of the appraisal? Of course they did. Their assumption is when that he's gonna pay the appraised value. So they're gonna lend 80% of the appraisal. So he's actually fooling himself. I'm not involved in the transaction at all. But I told him, I said, Doc, that's not gonna happen. I said, because at some point they're gonna ask you to produce a sales document. So if you wanna carry on, he's got another realtor that's helping him with it. And you gotta be careful, because I'm not getting involved in that. Are you kidding me? I got the license. You know how long I had this license? I've never been to council. Never had to go before council. All the deals I've done. That to me, like, I'm amazed. Like, if you never get before council, it's a good thing.
Sorry, Ray, I had
No, it's
kids
okay.
school. It's a bad timing.
Legal. We were talking, we were using your example, we're still on it.
So when a realtor poses a scenario like that, you still feel comfortable dealing with that individual? Like, as long as, I mean, you can set the parameters moving forward.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You see that, you gotta realize, anybody, this is something else you should realize, especially in our marketplace. If you come from a country where good people were persecuted, now follow my thinking here. If you grew up in a country where good people were persecuted, so all the Punjabis come from a country like that. The Koreans come from a country like that. Many Eastern European people come from countries like that. Where good people were persecuted, not for doing any bad thing, they're just persecuted, that's just the way the country runs. It warps your thinking. It's not that the Punjabis are bad, or the Koreans are bad. They just don't think the way Canadians think. And the difference is because we didn't grow up in a country, you guys didn't grow up in a country where you're persecuted for being good people. And they were, so now it's warped their thinking, and it'll never happen in the first generation. So some of them are realtors, you know what I'm saying? And they can't think straight. Because you see, where they grew up, everything goes, because in the end, as long as I win, it doesn't matter. So the self-image of that person is totally different from our self-image, and their value structure is different. It's not that they're bad, it's just that they've been wired differently, they've been trained differently. And to encounter somebody like who's thinking the way we think, we just have to say, you know what, I'm gonna keep dealing with that guy. But it's gonna have to be done my way. It's not that the guy's intrinsically bad, in the sense, he just doesn't know that that's not what, he just, and of course he runs into a lot of his own people. That's why sometimes these people work within their own communities. It's like Emily. See, Emily only works with her own people, because if she worked with somebody else, it would be like confusing for her. I see this among the Punjabi guys lots. They can't work with other people. It's not a color thing. It's a conceptual thing. We all have to make, you know, when I do these sessions, I haven't had too many people from ethnic countries sit through my negotiation sessions. Look around the room. They don't want to come and hear this, because I'll mess up their thinking. Right, Helen? Because you see, in their culture, it's okay. It's just we got to get the deal done somehow, some way. This is it, last one. Last one, we get to number 10. What, I did 10 in 2 hours. We're good. So here's the deal on number 10. Number 10 is a technique that a simple way of thinking of this technique is think of agendas. Okay? Your negotiations go better if you have an agenda. And the negotiation goes better where at every stage you kind of say, okay, this is today's agenda, this is tomorrow's agenda. So when you're kind of finishing up, when you're wrapping everything up, you kind of need to recap things for people, because they won't remember it. And you need to give people. There's so many ways of doing this. Like for instance, I do a list. When you do a listing, here's several things that people miss. I always, over the years, the listing sign, one of the next sheets I give them, it's in my listing package. Here's what to expect through the showing process. Okay. Here's what you're expected of showing. Here's how you prep it up for the showing. So I have all these checklists, which is kind of recapping all the, and I told them in a general sense I'm going to take care of them. Like, you list with me, I'm going to take care of you. Now I need to unpack that. How the heck am I going to take care of you? This is what you need to expect. This is your checklist. Here's the one that goes on the fridge. This is the general one. Boom. You list a house and you don't rip some. If you're listing a house, you're not ripping something out of your book and sticking it on the fridge. You need to get that sheet, because they won't remember all these things. Especially if you're admission, you gotta tell them, get the Rottweiler off the front lawn. I like it when there's somebody from Mission here, I can make that crack with it. Nobody here today. Hey, Bob? Get the Rottweiler in the backyard, hey Ted?
Yep.
Yeah, give him the list. All the points. I learned this years ago when I was building homes. So I'm building homes, I go make the presentation, doing custom home building. So I have to go make my presentation, and if they were all agreed with everything after a couple of meetings, right, they sign on my contract and they write me a check. I learned this thing years ago where I didn't lift a finger. They give me 1/3 of the house in a check up front. I'm working on my self-image for a long time. I haven't built anything, I haven't dug a hole in the ground, I got 1/3 of the house right up front. Jim, how many house builders do that?
They'll all tell you they can't.
It's unbelievable. I got 1/3 of that house right up front, in my pocket, in my backup. That's how I can operate. So the way I got it was because I did the presentation, showed them the way forward, and I had a timeline thing. For $120,000, should I take the call?
Yes, yeah.
Should I take it? Dwayne, can I phone you right back? I'm in a meeting. $30 and $7. 30 days to close. 30 days to do your subjects, and then 7 days to close. Okay. We're changing the deal.
Sorry, thanks, Ray.
We're changing it. There you go. Recap all the points. Make your let people know what's going on. Follow up. Everything that you tell people, follow up. Follow up with writing. Just yesterday, I'm talking. I talk to these realtors all the time, and they tell me all their problems from other companies. And this guy got called, and he got his hand slapped. Only because he made verbal agreements with people. He told the people that if push came to shove, he would reduce the commission to make the deal work. So what happened was, he got, when the offer came in, it was for full price. So they did not discuss the commission, because in his thinking, he was actually a good guy. He was thinking that I don't need to discuss the commission because I got you full price. What do you think that addendum on the back of the listing contract is for? It is not for what I see people putting on there. Every time I look at that Schedule A and I see all these things, you're gonna put a sign up and put a lockbox, that's not what it's for. Who told you that? The people on the board that don't sell real estate, right? If you do things that people who don't sell real estate tell you to do, you're probably gonna get yourself in trouble. They don't sell real estate. They're not in the field like we are. You know what that thing's on the back there for? For all the things that matter to the seller that you should write in. Like if you happen to say something like that. You know, my number one thing for my Schedule A is my cancellation fee agreement.
Oh, I like
My
that.
schedule. So my Schedule A is blank. And when I get there, and I'll quote with this one. I'll give you this one as a freebie. When I get there, I say to them, folks, see this listing contract that I have here? It is written by real estate lawyers in the favor of real estate companies and realtors. There's nothing in here to protect you. Am I telling the truth?
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing there to protect the seller. I mean, if you were a seller, would you want to sign one of our listing contracts for a year? Would you want to do? Would you want to do what we tell people to do? No, you wouldn't want to. Not in your right mind. So what I say to them, I say, folks, I want to put something in this contract that protects you. You know, Bob, if you win the lottery, would you still sell the house? Or, I know you guys are telling me you're breaking up, but if you go to Hawaii next week and you fall in love again and everything's hunky-dory, you might decide not to sell the house. Or if so-and-so recovers from the sickness, or all these things that I have no control over. When things in your life happen to you and all of a sudden you go, oh shoot, we can list the house. I said, this listing contract bad. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little schedule in here to get you out of the contract. And so if you wanna cancel a contract within 30 days, it's gonna cost you, let's just say $1,000. Because you understand I can't do this for nothing, right? But if it's over 30 days and less than, say, 90 days, it's gonna only cost you $2,500. It's gonna cost you $2,500. There's no hard work in it, spent money and everything else. But if it goes over 90 days, $7,000. I don't know, make up a really good number. Because guess what? There isn't a number you put there that they won't sign. Because if the commission's $15,000 or $20,000, and I can get out of the contract by paying rate 7. And my life changed. Do I wanna way out of Ray's contract? Absolutely. I never talk to people and they don't want me to put it. They're actually happy that I put it.